So I've replaced this ancient 850 Holly with this brand new Edelbrock. I guess it's a 600, maybe 650. I don't know actually. I didn't pay enough attention to it. It's the manual choke model, which will work good for this truck because it's a manual choke truck. And I've added a Fram fuel filter here. It's kind of the racing high performance one. I'm gonna make some fuel line for this thing now. I'm gonna go from here to over here. But I'm gonna use a little short piece of rubber hose right here and then a hard line up to the filter. I wanna try and isolate the carburetor from engine heat. You know, modern gasoline boils at a very low temperature, and old carbureted engines have a tendency of boiling the gas in the carburetor. So I'm trying to keep the carburetor as cold as I can. It's got a thick insulator here, and it's going to have a piece of rubber so that there's no metal connection between the carburetor and the engine. And I need to make fuel line over here too. It's going to be hard tubing. I'm going to make it so it runs down in there. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's going to come out somewhere down here to the frame rail. This is the fuel line from the fuel tank, and it's going to need, I'll probably replace it, I think. Somebody's added this. The original line probably rotted off, but it's very crudely installed. As you can see, it just moves pretty loosely. So we'll try and pretty that up a bit. So I'm going to show you how I bend steel tubing to make fuel line. A lot of obstacles in my yard. You got to walk around everything here. I got the Jeep. Some engines that don't belong to me that have not been picked up yet. This is the tubing I'm going to use. It's 3/8 steel tubing. It's round in a big coil, and obviously I don't want it to look like that. So this tool is a tubing straightener. You basically gently uncoil this, and you run it through these rollers, and you progressively tighten down this knob, and you just run it back and forth, and it does a good job of straightening that tubing. And I'll show that to you guys when I get to it. I'm gonna use this tubing bender. This is from Tubing Bender. Let me rephrase this. What is this called? I don't even know. It's the thing that makes the flares on the end of tube. A tubing flarer? I guess that's a good word for it. This is from Eastwood, but you can buy them anywhere. This is the best one I've ever used. It's very simple. You just dial in whatever size you're working on, whatever flare. And yeah, there it goes. So let me get started. I'll set you guys up. What I can do is unfold this a little bit. A little bit more than I need here. Roll it back and forth. At the same time, turn it in a circle like so. Go. Now, by the way, don't run it over the edge because this will tear into your rollers. So you don't worry, that's just waste, don't worry about it. But it makes a pretty nice straight piece of tubing that you can then make into your fuel line. Got to cut it now. So I like to use the bandsaw to cut this because if you use a tubing cutter, you know, the thing with the wheel on it, it kind of work hardens the metal. It makes it harder to flare. So I found that if I just cut it with this tiny little bandsaw, it makes a nice edge, it's nice and square, and then I can get the burrs off of it and flare it. Little deburring tool. It's a good idea to clean up the edges before you flare it so that you get the best possible flare. Don't need that guy. Now we need this guy. There's different dies depending on what size tubing you're using. This is 3/8 tubing, so we need 3/8 dies. Which is not that one. The dies have the number on the edge, like 3/8. Let me bring you guys over so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, we've got the tubing all straightened and deburred. I used a little sandpaper on the outside to get rid of the little extra burr. It's a good idea to put the flare nut on now. Obviously, if you flared this tubing, you're not getting the flare nut on afterwards. We got the right size dies. You put the tubing in there. You just set it in there. Put the catch over the top. Put a little bit of light tension on this guy. What you want to do now is this tool has like a positioning die to it. So you rotate it around, just a flat piece of metal. So you rotate it around, and this will position the tubing at the exact right place within the dies. It just backs it up against the dies. Then you can snug this down more thoroughly. You don't want the tubing sliding in the die. We're going to do a 3/8 double flare, and so that's 2 operations to accomplish this. Each one of these dies forms a different shape. So we're going to use the one that's labeled 3/8 operation 1. You give it a pull till it bottoms out. Then you rotate this to 3/8 operation 2. Give it a pull till she bottoms out. Loosen this guy up, and at this point, it's handy if you wiggle the tubing and turn it to break it free of the die before you pull the pin and flip it out. It just makes it easier to get the die off of it. And you can see we just made our 3/8 double flare pretty easily. Anybody who's ever tried to flare tubing with the little hand tools knows how hard that can be. And if it doesn't come out right, you just do it again. Like you can look at it, see if there's any defects. This one looks okay to me. And there you go. It's a pretty nice little tool. I recommend you buy it. They're not that much money, maybe $150 25 bucks, something like that. But it's the best flaring tool I've seen for the home hobbyist. Okay, we're back at the truck. Now we need to figure out how long this guy's going to be. And you can see my tube. Jesus Christ, who the hell's calling me? Really? Right now you have to call? Okay, I forgot to touch on this. If you want to put a hose on this, you should really have a little bubble end on it. And the way you do that is you put it back in the dies. And you're just going to use the first operation, like operation 1 for the 3/8 die. And you don't pull it all the way, you just pull it a little bit. A little bit's a very scientific number. But you can see it makes a little bubble on the end. So when you put the hose on, it's less likely to come off. Makes a pretty nice finished product. There you go.